Far-right Boogaloo Bois movement creeping back onto Facebook. Muslims make up 25% of the world's population, yet we're only 1.1% of characters in popular TV series. Increase in heat waves, wildfires to worsen air quality, UN agency warns. UN sees life expectancy, education, and income fall. Roads border jammed as millions of Iranian pilgrims head to Iraq. First Eco-Mosque for the region to be unveiled in Sisak, Croatia. From Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I am Zahra Syed. Our top story tonight. The far-right anti-government Boogaloo Bois movement is carving out new spaces on Facebook, despite an ongoing ban on the extremist group, according to a monitor. It has led to wider anti-law enforcement activity among the far-right, according to a tech transparency project. The movement has been re-energized by the FBI's August 8th search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. Facebook formally banned Boogaloo Bois in June 2020. The Transparency Project found the social media company has a poor track record in enforcing its prohibition. It detected an increase in Boogaloo groups and accounts returning to Facebook after a Mar-a-Lago raid. It also found no signs that Facebook, nor its parent company Meta, has recognized or taken action on this re-emerging threat. On Tuesday, U.S. Rep. Ilhan Omar called Republican Senator Ted Cruz a miserable little weasel. The Minnesota Democrat was criticizing Cruz for trying to get the Supreme Court to block President Joe Biden's plan to cancel $10,000 in student loan debt for more federal borrowers. The Texas Republican is amongst many GOP officials exploring a potential legal challenge to Biden's student debt relief plan, which could benefit more than 40 million borrowers nationwide. Cruz and a litigator have been discussing tactics to get the debt relief plan before the conservative-packed Supreme Court. The Washington Post reports Cruz said a top Supreme Court litigator told him the best potential plaintiff for establishing standing to overturn Biden's student debt plan would be a student loan processor. USC's Annenberg Inclusion Initiative is conducting a quantitative and qualitative study of Muslim portrayals on television, and the result shows there is vast room for improvement. The study, Erased or Extremists, was conducted with support from Academy and Emmy Award-winning actor Riz Ahmed and his banner Left-Handed Films, the Ford Foundation, and the Pillars Fund. It analyzed the first 3 episodes from the 100 highest-rated shows in the US, UK, Australia, and New Zealand from 2018 and 2019. The study sampled 200 series and found one Muslim-speaking character for every 90 non-Muslims, 2% share in 2018 and less than 1% of the following year. The Muslim characters come from a total of 16 shows. On Wednesday, the U.S. strongly condemned Iran's alleged cyberattack on NATO ally Albania. It pledged to take further action to hold Iran accountable for actions that threatened the security of a U.S. ally and set a troubling precedent for cyberspace. National Security Council spokesperson Adrian Watson's statement came after Albania decided to cut diplomatic relations with Iran over the cyber attacks. Watson said Washington has been supporting Albania's efforts to recover from and investigate the July 15th cyber attack that destroyed government data. It disrupted government services to the public that Albania views as critical infrastructure, she said. A rise in extreme heat and forest fires likely will worsen air quality and endanger human health in this century, according to a report released Wednesday. Air pollution, combined with climate change, will penalize hundreds of millions of people globally, according to the annual Air Quality and Climate Bulletin report. The World Meteorological Organization report predicts a rise in the frequency, intensity, and duration of heat waves and an associated increase in wildfires. The document highlights climate change could exacerbate surface ozone pollution, leading to detrimental health impacts for millions. Peteritales, WMO Secretary General, said aside from human health, this also will affect ecosystems as air pollutants settle from the atmosphere to Earth's surface. The WMO warned air pollution reached an unprecedented level in some regions last year. UN sees life expectancy, education, and income falling. Details come after the break. Stay tuned, and we will be right back after these messages.
A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today.
I am what hunger looks like in America.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Assalamu alaikum! Open up your eyes.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Bika from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe, and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
It's Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. A new UN report says decades of progress in life expectancy, education, and economic prosperity have begun to unravel since the pandemic. In the last 2 years, 9 out of 10 countries have slid backwards on the UN's Human Development Index. What has led to this reversal in global development is COVID-19, the war in Ukraine, and the impact of climate change, the report says. The Human Development Index was launched in 1990 to look beyond GDP as a measure of nations' well-being. Switzerland tops the index this year with a life expectancy of 84 years, on average 16.5 years spent in education, and a median salary of $66,000. At the bottom of the scale is South Sudan, which has a life expectancy of 55, where people spend 5.5 years in school on average and earn $768 a year. India and Bangladesh have reaffirmed their commitment to combating and preventing the spread of terrorism, violent extremism, and radicalization in the region. Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina arrived in India on Monday for a 4-day visit. She met with Indian counterpart Narendra Modi and discussed bilateral issues, according to a joint statement issued by the Ministry of External Affairs. Their meeting was followed by delegation-level talks on Tuesday. both nations have agreed to collaborate in new areas. These include the environment, climate change, cybersecurity, space technology, and green energy. The two leaders also discussed Indian border security forces shooting and killing Bangladeshi people near the border. Adhikar, a human rights organization based in Bangladesh, says Indian forces have killed more than 1,200 Bangladeshis across the border in the last 2 decades. All routes leading to Iran's multiple border crossings with Iraq were jammed Thursday as millions made the trek for the annual Arba'in pilgrimage. Arba'in marks 40 days since Ashura, the 10th day of the Islamic month of Muharram. Millions of pilgrims from across the world walk by foot between the Iraqi cities of Najaf and Karbala. A vast majority of pilgrims come from Iran. This year's Arba'in pilgrimage comes after 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's the first time Iranian nationals have been given visa exemption by the Iraqi government. According to estimates, around 5 million Iranians are heading to Iraq for the pilgrimage this year. British minority ethnic workers are paid below the UK living wage compared to their white counterparts, a new report shows. The survey was conducted by the Living Wage Foundation. It also revealed rising discrimination against ethnic minority workers and urged renewed support amid a cost of living crisis. The foundation's Catherine Chapman said minority ethnic workers are disproportionately employed in low-paid, insecure work. She said the cost of living crisis is exposing long-standing racial inequalities in the labor market. The study shows 33% of Bangladeshi workers, 29% of Pakistani workers, and 25% of Black workers are paid below UK's living wage, compared to 20% of white workers. 34% of ethnic minority workers have been denied promotion, while 29% have been refused a job due to their ethnicity and background. 56% of ethnic workers have reported discrimination in the workplace, with 22% reported being denied training opportunities. A new Eco-Mosque and Islamic center opened in the Croatian town of Sisak on Thursday, Bulgarian news agencies report. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and diplomats were among the guests at the opening. The mosque is only the third largest religious facility for Muslims in the country, after mosques in Zagreb and Rijeka, the report said. It is the first eco-mosque in the region. Alam Krankic, Imam of Sisak, said the vision for the house of worship was developed more than 50 years ago, and it has been the dream of many generations of Muslims. The center is expected to serve more than 4,000 people from a Muslim community that has had roots in the region since 1968. Coming up next, after the break, is our in-depth analysis segment. So stay tuned and we will be right back after these messages.
A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today.
I am what hunger looks like in America.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
I am what hunger looks like in America.
I am an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for the last day of school. Because this may be the last time I'll have lunch. Till September.
I am a single father of 2
who works 3 part-time jobs, and that's still not enough to put food on the table.
I was created by artificial intelligence from faces of the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger.
Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
Welcome back. To discuss the recent report about the Canadian banks targeting Muslim institutions, let's go to Edward Ahmed Mitchell. Over to you, Edward.
And now we'd like to discuss something that came out of Canada, but something that impacts people all across the Western world. We'd like to bring on our special guest, Stephen Zhou, from the National Council of Canadian Muslims, to discuss a report they just released about anti-Muslim discrimination in the banking industry, how it's impacting Muslims in Canada, and how it's also a phenomenon we've seen in other countries in the West, and what can be done about this problem. Stephen, assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam. Thanks for having me.
I'm happy to have you. Stephen, tell us a bit about yourself. You are a journalist and a writer. You focus on national security, politics, foreign affairs, and far-right extremism over the past 10 years. Tell us about your focus and NCCM for those who aren't familiar with it.
Yeah, so I'm a writer, investigator, and generally an employee of the National Council of Canadian Muslims, or NCCM, which is the only national civil liberties and human rights organization that advocates for Canadian Muslims here in Canada. There's also foreign policy aspects to what we do, but the bulk of our work is advocating for Muslim rights here in Canada.
Absolutely. So tell us, Stephen, about the report you just released. I believe it is titled The Untold Story of Debanking in Canada's Muslim Community. What's the report? What did you find?
Well, I think the genesis of it really came about during various meetings we've had over the past year or so, where our leadership really brought up this issue of coming across or being in conversation with our community organizations, mosques, education organizations, schools, and so on and so forth, all Muslim charities across Canada, who always bring up this issue of having problems with the major banks where they keep the organization's reserve funds, all the donations, often in the millions of dollars. Primarily, the issue is that a lot of these organizations have experienced banks that tell them to leave essentially within a month or two, to take all their reserve funds, their donation funds, and to find a new home essentially. And that is incredibly disruptive. The banks usually don't give any kind of detailed reasoning as to why they're doing this, except to say their Muslim client, whichever organization, charity, Muslim, mosque, in this case, have exceeded their quote unquote risk tolerance or risk appetite. We can get into that a bit if you want, but that's generally the picture here.
Yeah, tell us more, because on its face, first of all, it sounds very, as a civil rights attorney, it sounds very familiar because this happens in America as well. You call it Muslim law banking. But tell us a bit more about what the banks in Canada are saying, that it's exceeded their risk tolerance. My understanding is that you don't go beyond that and you are just kicked out and you don't know why, and that can be incredibly frustrating. Tell us more about what happens after that point, how this impacts a person who has just been deprived of their bank account without any legitimate or sufficient explanation.
Yeah, so I mean, if you take a look at this issue from the personal individual standpoint, of course, you can't live your life in Canada or the United States without some kind of banking arrangement. You probably wouldn't be able to get a job that employed by a company that deposits your wages into a checking account, or if you have no credit history, you need a bank to give you a credit card, or some other kind of loan situation. A lot of Muslims don't indulge in that because of the interest issue, but generally speaking, I think you need a bank to get by on a day-to-day basis. Now, expand that into the organizational reality. You have mosques that collect, whether it's during Ramadan or all year round, millions of dollars that they need to put somewhere, or they have donations that need to be processed online. Whenever you donate to an organization online, like the Muslim charity or a humanitarian organization that works in Muslim majority countries, a payment processor has to process that donation in order for the organization you're donating to receive your money. So if those donation processors don't want to work with you either, which is what we've seen, if their banking partners say, your Muslim client is too risky, then you're really crippled as an organization. You can't take in any money.
Right. Absolutely. And so what do you think is really going on here? The bank says you've exceeded our risk tolerance, very vague language, meaningless. What do you think is actually happening behind the scenes? Do you have any information or any speculation for that matter? What's actually going on?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to understand that in the North American context, or really in any context, to be able to do business, to be able to put your money into a bank is not really considered a human right from the legal perspective. That's true here in Canada, it's true in the United States. And it's considered actually a privilege for people who, everyday retail people to put their money in banks, even though it's really an absolute essential, and it probably is considered a human right on a broader international basis. But as far as the letter of the law is concerned, banks don't have to take your money. Banks don't have to take you on as a client, which gives them an immense amount of power, a tremendous amount of power, as we know, in the financial sector on everyone's lives. This is not a news. And if they want to kick you out, they can. They don't have to give any reasoning. In this case, they're kicking out Muslim organizations who they believe, what's happening really is they want to comply with anti-money laundering laws that are coming out of, Parliament or Congress or whatever the case may be. And they don't want to be seen as taking on clients that may be doing work, let's say in relief work in a Muslim majority country overrun by banned terrorist entities, or you may have gotten a fine from the IRS or the CRA here in Canada, Canadian Revenue Agency, that audits everybody or takes that kind of thing. And if they don't want to do that, they don't have to do it, and they don't have to tell the mosques or whoever they're kicking out why they're kicking them out. They just don't have to do any of that.
Do you think that there is any redress whatsoever? For example, if a whistleblower inside a bank was able to provide evidence that these entities are being targeted, not because of the work they do, not because they're doing anything wrong, but simply because they are Muslim, because they're advocating for certain human rights causes. Is there anything in Canadian law that would then allow an organization to take action if there was evidence they were being targeted simply because they're a mosque, or because they're advocating for Palestinian human rights or Uyghurs or what have you?
Well, first of all, from our report, from my research, we have to be very careful. There's no concrete evidence that Muslim organizations are getting this kind of treatment, are being asked to take their money elsewhere by the major banks, that the reasoning behind it has anything to do necessarily with anti-Muslim discrimination or racist discrimination or Islamophobia per se. Now, functionally, I think Muslim organizations, because there is this regime in place right now in Canada where anti-money laundering laws are in place, banks are very, any financial organization, but particularly banks that take on so many organizations, so many clients, they want to be very careful in terms of who they take on. They want to go through everyone with a fine-tooth comb. And when you talk about anti-money laundering, you're talking about criminals, you're talking about terrorists. And when you think about terrorists still in the post-9/11 world, we think about Muslims. And these businesses, these banks are businesses, they're going to be looking at their Muslim clients with very microscopic kind of scrutiny. And if they see anything, if they even smell anything that's off, they'll probably think about telling you to leave, if not tell you to leave. The law does not require that they tell you why. They can say, make up whatever reason. Is there recourse? Is there redress? There is no redress, really. You just have to find somewhere else. Maybe you have to go to a credit union. And sometimes these mosques or Muslim charities can't even get big credit unions to take them on. They have to go to smaller credit unions. It's a very crippling thing. And what we're asking is for some kind of structural change here for people to get redress, to have some kind of due process in place that balances this kind of unequal relationship between very powerful financial institutions and services and the Muslim organizations and any people or organizations that have to bank.
Yeah, because it seems that if a bank is singling out and giving Muslim institutions particularly heightened scrutiny, simply because they're Muslim, and then enforcing supposed risk concerns on them that they wouldn't necessarily do with other entities, it seems like that could be illegal discrimination, at least here. So your suggestion is that there needs to be some structural legal change to address this problem, to give people and organizations the potential for redress and to make sure that banks aren't doing this in the future. Is that going to require laws in Parliament, actions by the government? How would that work in Canada?
Well, I mean, the report is called The Untold Story because nobody wants to talk about it, because Muslim charities who are under extreme scrutiny already don't want more bad press to come out about them, and then they'll get debanked again and again and again, which has happened. So I mean, these organizations, these banks, these financial services, they're trying to comply with the law. They're trying to not lose money, not get fined by the government for inadvertently, accidentally, unknowingly helping criminals and terrorists launder money. I understand that. That is in and of itself nothing to do with Islamophobia. It's perfectly legitimate. In fact, probably a positive thing for any society to have. But if that process of scrutiny and that kind of thing, starts to affect Muslim organizations or any community organizations in a way where there's absolutely no redress whatsoever, well, that's just an unequal relationship that needs to be changed. Is that going to be a law thing? Well, it has to be, kind of industry changes. Again, we're just starting to talk about this, so it's unclear what that might look like. But every bank assesses risk when it comes to certain clients. They probably, my guess is they assess Muslim clients, Muslim charities who may or may not have gotten fined by some government agency in the past. They assess these clients, Muslim clients, very closely. And that process should be more transparent. If you have reasons why you're kicking someone out, you should be able to present it. You should have to present it, in my opinion, just as a matter of ethics. And there should be some kind of neutral body where that evidence is assessed. And if it's true, then you should, if you want to kick someone out, that's they should be.
For a legitimate reason, then by all means, that's your right as a company.
Yeah.
But the key thing is you've got to know why they're doing it, because if they want to explain why they're doing it, it could be a discriminatory motive, and you wouldn't know because they're hiding it, right? And the only way to know is if they can proffer a legitimate explanation. In the absence of one, it raises questions is there one at all? Well, Stephen, it sounds like the first step to addressing this is just identifying the problem, which it sounds like your report does. Where can people read the report?
You can read the report on our NCCM Medium page. That's nccm.medium.com. And, I've written also a summation, a summary, kind of like an executive summary of what I found in a more accessible way. You can read that on the Toronto Star. It's Canada's largest newspaper. I've written an opinion piece about that. And in the report, I also interview a person who does sanctions analysis and for a major bank here in Canada. And he goes into some of the process of how risk assessment is done. And it's exactly as you said, we have to start naming this issue first and then get into the accountability aspect, whether that's government relations, lobbying, or what have you. People need to feel comfortable with talking about this first.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Stephen, for coming on. This is an issue that is not only impacting Canadian Muslims, but I know American Muslims as well, and possibly others in other countries. So raising awareness is an important first step. We thank you for joining us to do that today. May Allah protect you and all the Muslims in Canada. And we hope to have you back soon, inshallah.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much, Edward. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook channel. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.